שלום לכם תלמידי המרכז ללימודים אקדמיים באור יהודה מוושינגטון בירת ארצות הברית. אנחנו נמצאים כאן היום כדי לדבר על חינוך, על כלכלה, על עסקים ובעיקר על העתיד עם אחת הנשים המשפיעות והחזקות בעולם העסקים האמריקני. קרלי פיורינה, מי שהחלה את דרכה בתור מזכירה בחברה קטנה, הפכה לאישה הראשונה שניהלה חברת ענק בינלאומית בשם HP, שכולנו מכירים, ונבחרה 6 פעמים ברציפות על ידי המגזין היוקרתי פורצ'ן, לאישה החזקה בעולם העסקים. פיורינה עוסקת כיום בקידום חינוך לעסקים, ונחשבת לאחת התומכות הגדולות של העסקים הקטנים והיזמות הפרטית. בראיון עימה, היא תעניק לכם כמה טיפים שאולי ישנו את חייכם. Miss Fiorina, shalom, and thank you for this interview.
Shalom, and it's Carly, please, and I'm delighted to be with you and the students at the College for Academic Studies.
When someone is sitting at home, thinking of his future, and to make decisions about where to learn, what to study, what to do in the next 3-4 years, and of course the dilemma is between studies or let's make some quick money. Your advice would be?
Life is long if you're lucky. I'm a cancer survivor, so if you're lucky, life is longer than 3 or 4 years. If you're smart, you will think about being successful over the long term, not just the short term. But what people shouldn't do is think, oh, the first step is everything. If I don't take the right first step, I'm not going to have a good life. I took so many missteps. A lot of successful people take missteps. Just start. Just start down the path. Because the journey is as important as the destination. That maybe sounds trite as well, but what do you learn along the journey? You learn what you like. You learn who you are. You learn what you're good at, what you're not so good at. You learn the kind of people you operate well with. You learn who's going to take a chance on you and who isn't. Those are invaluable lessons. So what I would say to somebody is, don't get so afraid that every step I make has to be perfect. It won't be. Just start. And give it everything you've got.
And now someone comes to you, he tells you, listen, I just graduated. I'm not going to tell you what he graduated, it's not important. What are the skills you are looking for?
So if I'm going to hire someone, what I look for is first, is this person optimistic, enthusiastic? I know that sounds like sort of a soft thing, but in my experience, people tend to be of 2 types. There are people who see limitations in every circumstance, and there are people who see possibilities in every circumstance. And the people who see possibilities in a circumstance, which generally goes along with enthusiasm and optimism, they will achieve more. Any job you get, there are going to be constraints, limitations. And there are people who will look at a job and say, I can't do this, no one will let me do that. And then there are other people who say, but I could do this, and I can try that, and it actually would make a difference if I would go do that. So I look for that attitude, honestly. I look for people who know what they know, so they're confident about what they know, but are also humble enough to know what they don't know.
The interesting part in your biography, one of the most interesting things, is that you started with philosophy and then with law studies, and you ended up
as a secretary.
Yes, but then you went back to school.
Yeah.
And you found it essential, after all, to go back to school.
Of course, because when I was a secretary because I needed to pay the rent, and I had dropped out of law school, and I was a philosophy major, and I was a woman in the 70s, and people didn't hire women in business. So I was trying to pay the rent, but what that secretarial job did for me is it introduced me to the world of business. And what it also did for me is there were 2 men in that little office who took a chance on me. who said, you know, maybe you have potential to do more. And I will guarantee you that every person who is successful, including me, but not limited to me, every person who's successful has had someone take a chance on them, someone help them, someone believe in them so that they could believe in themselves. But then I had to go on and get an MBA so that I had some skills to apply.
You could have done what you have done without those skills that you picked up at school?
I don't think I would have been hired, frankly. I don't think without the credential of an MBA, I would have been hired by the company that ultimately hired me, AT&T, and that was my first real entry-level job in business. On the other hand, I don't think I would have been successful, had I not been a secretary, because I learned a lot being a secretary. Had I not learned that I didn't like law school and thought very carefully about what I did like, and had I not studied philosophy and history, I don't think I would have gone as far.
Yeah, so you mentioned the secretary part. And I guess many people asked you in the past, but what does it take to make the Carly Fiorina way to success from this point of being a secretary?
Well, first I would say the goal, of course, is not to be Carly Fiorina. The goal is for each person to fulfill their potential, whatever that is, and to do what they love and to have an impact. So what did I learn when I was a secretary? I learned that I like the results orientation of business. I learned that I liked working with other people. I learned that somebody way down in the totem pole, a secretary, could actually make a difference for a customer. Very important lessons for a future CEO. But the other thing I learned was there is value in every job. There is dignity in all work. There is something to be learned from every job. I didn't say, ooh, the secretary job is beneath me. I have a degree from Stanford University. Why should I become a secretary? I didn't say that. I was grateful for the job. And I learned something in the job. So the advice I would give to people is there is a possibility in every job. It's important to work. It's important to work hard. It's important to take chances. It's important to make mistakes and then pick yourself up and move on. And it's important to do the hard stuff. If you want to succeed, do the hard things, not the easy things.
What does a person have to do to start a business from scratch? What are the 3 or 5 basic pillars for a new business?
Yeah. So first, I know this sounds so trite in a way, but first you have to believe that you can do it. That's important because it's hard. A lot of things are going to go wrong. There will be times when you are very discouraged. And so having a determination, a belief that this is something you can do and you want to do is very important. Second, someone has to take a chance on you. Maybe they take a chance on you by giving you a loan. Maybe they take a chance on you by buying your first product. Maybe they take a chance on you by giving you advice. Look for people who are willing to take a chance on you. They're out there. Third, you have to have something that someone is willing to buy. You have to have a product that a customer is willing to pay for. And I find a lot of young entrepreneurs sometimes think so much about, oh, let me go do the IPO. Let me make money. And they haven't thought through, but what is a customer actually going to buy? And finally, don't be afraid to make mistakes. We all do. It's the only way we learn. Don't be afraid to take a chance. Don't be afraid to take a risk. Success requires all those things.
And then it comes, okay, you have the business. And the big question is how to run it. By being a centralist manager or by decentralizing the management and giving power to all the people around you. What's the best way to make it happen, to make it get to the top?
Well, I think that a leader has a very important role. There are certain things a leader cannot let go of, but other than those 4 things, I think there are 4, they should let go of as much power as possible. So, what are the 4 things a leader needs to hang on to? The strategy. What are we trying to do? What are our goals? What is our future vision? That's a leader's job. Second, how are we going to organize to get that work done and to achieve those goals? Third, how are we going to measure success? Because what gets measured is what gets done. So a leader has to decide, how do we define success? And finally, what's the culture we want in this business? Culture is very important in a business. It's the software of a business. So a leader has to decide, has to personify, has to demonstrate our strategy and goals, how we're going to organize ourselves, how do we measure success, what's the culture in this place.
He has to be there.
He or she
to
has
show the
to,
path, the
yes,
way.
to show the way. Other than that, let everything go. Let people experiment and innovate and get it done.
Yeah. I would like to take you back to HP just for a few minutes. And you know, you made decisions there that not everybody loved.
Well, of course not.
Do you believe that a leader, as a manager, should make those decisions in spite of what everybody says, in spite of those people sometimes that say, I hate your decision, and go with your idea to the end, till the end?
A leader's job is to set the strategic vision for their organization.
Even if they don't like it?
Well, the goal is to have as many people as possible like it, obviously. Otherwise, you won't achieve anything. A leader is not leading if nobody's following. So, in order to have people follow a vision, people have to embrace it. But here's the thing. Our vision, for example, was to become a technology leader. HP could not become a technology leader without doing some dramatic things. In this particular case, we acquired Compaq. We also acquired an Israeli company at the height of the Intifada. It was important to our vision of leadership. It is a leader's job to see possibilities. It is a leader's job to help others seize those possibilities. And always, seizing the possibility means making tough choices. Always. You will not get 100% consensus, ever.
Meaning Carly Fiorina's advice is, if you made a decision, stand firm.
If you believe the decision you've made is the right one, and you've thought through all the alternatives, and you know the organization is capable of executing this decision, you bet you have to stand firm. Because part of being a leader is you will be tested. People will say, you didn't really mean we were going to lead. You didn't really mean we were going to be number one. You didn't really mean, because getting something done is always harder than people think it's going to be. It always takes more work, effort, time to achieve the goal than people hope at the outset. So of course you have to stand firm.
So technology is advancing very fast, and many of the new ingenious ideas are coming from garages and from startups and small companies. How can a huge company, like HP as an example, just an example, still be at the tip of the new developments when everybody is doing that already?
Well, it is true that small and new businesses are more innovative than big established businesses. That's just a fact. It is also true, in fact, 11 times more innovative if you measured it in terms of patents. Small and new businesses generate 11 times the number of patents of big businesses. Secondly, it's true that there are environments that encourage innovation. Israel is an environment, an economy, a culture that encourages innovation. Silicon Valley is an environment, a culture that encourages innovation. Third, however, in order for a business to be innovative, a big business, a business has to be willing to take risks. A business has to value innovation. So just as an example, when I came to HP, we had one of the And you have to be willing to have not everything pay off.
And now it takes me to the fear factor. As I see it, it's one of the most important factors in decision making. Many people are afraid to make decisions, hard ones or important ones. You fired 30,000 people from HP, but you needed to be courageous enough to do it.
And we also hired even more people at HP. We acquired companies, yes, all those.
So let's talk about the fear factor. How important it is to beat this factor or to deal with it?
It's very important from two perspectives. One, people are afraid of many things, and a business is people after all. So if you want to move a business forward, you have to understand how people operate. People are afraid. People are afraid to look foolish. People are afraid to make mistakes. People are afraid to get fired. People are afraid of all kinds of things. By the way, I've been afraid of all those things in my life. We all have. So what happens when people are afraid is change is very difficult. Change is always hard because people are afraid of what they don't know. And yes, you are correct that many people are afraid to make the tough decisions. That's why it's important to go back to the goal. What's the goal? The goal is not my personal success. The goal is not what people are going to say about me. The goal is greater than the individual. It has to be. Otherwise, you can't make the tough decisions. So if the purpose is to achieve a set of goals which are bigger than you, which impact lots of other people, then that helps give you the courage to say, I have to do this to achieve the goal.
You were talking about the goal and success, and most of us, I guess, or many of us, translate success into money.
Which is a shame. It's a shame. It's not that money isn't important. Money is an indicator of value in a great many societies. But success is, let me talk about myself for a moment. My success as a CEO is not measured, in my judgment, in the size of my paycheck. My success as a CEO is measured by the fact that we achieved our goals. We had goals and we achieved them. That's why I think it's very important for leaders, for people who want to succeed in life, to have a goal that is larger than themselves. It keeps you going. And too often, have we not had so many examples in the last 5 years of people who chased money, and it worked for a while. But in the end, many of them were spectacular failures because they ended up in jail, or they ended up embarrassed or humiliated because they did something wrong or they did something unworthy. Perhaps it sounds corny, but if all you're doing is chasing money, I think you will not fulfill your potential, but also you won't achieve the success you're actually after. Steve Jobs didn't create Apple so that he would be rich. He created Apple and he got rich, but his goal, his idea, was so much bigger than the size of his paycheck.
So if someone young from Israel, from the College of Academic Studies, is going to stand in front of me and says, listen, I read all your biography, I read your book, and I just want to be there with the money, with the power, with the success. You're going to tell him you are wrong?
Yes, I'm going to tell him you're wrong. If somebody comes to me and says, all that I care about is money or power, and that is my definition of success, then I would say, you know, go find your way. But that is not a person who will become a leader in their life. They may become rich, but they won't be a leader. And it's important, perhaps, for me to pause and say, what do I mean by leadership? Leadership is about making a positive difference. Leadership is about changing the order of things. Management is about producing acceptable results within known constraints and conditions. Getting rich is about getting rich. Leadership is about making a positive difference and changing the order of things.
You know, Israeli President Shimon Peres is aiming in the next years to bring business into the
Yes.
Middle East. This is his idea.
And by the way, has been for quite some time. Shimon Peres has been talking about this. He's a wonderful man,
Yes.
and I know him well. He's been talking about this for a long time because economic growth is part of the answer to conflict.
He believes that business and education and success are going to change the region.
He is right. He is right. I must tell you another brief story. I was in Jordan, and I was attending the World Economic Forum in Jordan. And Shimon Peres, actually, was on a stage debating, at that time, Yasser Arafat. And I was standing backstage because I was to give an address afterwards. And I was watching a security guard. And he was listening very intently. And so I began to talk to him. And I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "I'm Egyptian." And I said, "What do you think of this debate that you're listening to?" And he said, "You know, here in the Middle East, we talk always about politics. It's all about economics." He was exactly right. Politics are important, but if people don't have an opportunity to make a better life for themselves and their families, there will be conflict. Shimon Peres understands that business and growth and jobs and economies with a future, they make a lot of things better.
1 year ago, at the end of 2012, everybody predicted that the crisis, the economical crisis, is going to be here for 2013. The numbers at the end of the year showed totally a different picture. What do you think is going to happen in the year ahead of us?
So, first of all, I'm not really in the forecast business, but what I would say is here are the trends that I think we should pay attention to. First, at least in the United States, small business creation is way down, and more small businesses are failing and fewer are starting than has been the case in many decades. That's a problem because economic growth comes from small and new businesses. It's true in America, it's true in Israel. It's why, frankly, in many cases, the economies of Europe have stagnated for a long time, because they don't have this engine of innovation and job creation, which is small business creation. So that trend is worrisome. Innovation is the answer to rising standards of living. I mean, we know that free market economies coupled with innovation lift more people out of poverty than any other force in the world. It's true throughout human history. And so when you see things that depress that, protectionism, overly complex regulation, tax schemes that don't make sense and that depress innovation, all those things are worrisome. And of course, we have a situation now where we have so much conflict and unrest in many parts of the world. So those are the worrisome trends. The positive trends, we started talking about technology. What does technology do? For the first time in human history, really, for the first time in human history, any person, anywhere, can get any piece of information they want. And any person, anywhere, can communicate with any other person. That's revolutionary. That's historic. So that means that the individual is empowered like never before in human history. And those are not, I'm not being melodramatic. People have never been so empowered as they are right now. And so that's a very positive trend.
So technology is advancing very fast these days.
And it empowers people.
The next trends for the next year?
Well, I think we've come to this place in technology where we have to learn how to control the technology instead of the technology controlling us. Right now, you see people who are absolutely controlled by their technology. What I mean by that is, oh my gosh, if someone texts me or, you know, I get a Twitter comment, I have to respond right away. And people are spending endless amounts of time on silly things. So they're prevented from doing or thinking about more important things. So I think we have to learn how to control our technology. Technology can sometimes help us do that. There are, you know, broadly speaking, cloud services or concierge services that help us separate the essential from the truly trivial things that are a waste of time. But I think the next big leap is we have to learn how to control the technology. The second thing that I would say is, way back in the year 2000, I first made the comment that everything physical and analog, everything physical and analog, is going to become digital, mobile, virtual, and personal.
And small.
And, well, that's what personal means. And I think we are 15 years in to what is a 40-year trend. So we're going to continue down that path. Digital is obvious, mobile, virtual, personal. Virtual, now we have virtual money called Bitcoin. What does that mean? I don't know what that means, but it's a continuation of that trend. And in the middle of that trend, we have to learn how to control that technology instead of it controlling us.
The final question, Kali Fiorina is sitting now in front of many viewers, students. You tell them today to do what in order to succeed?
Know that you have great potential, probably more than you realize. Figure out what your potential is by testing yourself along the way. Recognize that life is a great adventure. Make the most of it. Understand that when the tough times come, and they will, that sometimes the most important lessons are learned in the toughest times. That's what I would say. And recognize that everyone is afraid along the way. You too will be afraid along the way. The question is, does your fear stop you? Or does your fear push you ahead?
Ms. Fiorina, thank you very much for this interview.
It is my pleasure. Thank you.